The future of the Las Vegas Raiders is unclear, and that includes their defense. One big question is what will happen with Antonio Pierce. If he gets fired, there's a good chance the team will hire a new defensive coordinator and change the whole defensive strategy. But even if Antonio Pierce stays, the future of Patrick Graham, the current defensive coordinator, is also uncertain. His contract ends at the end of this season, and he hasn't signed a new deal yet. Raiders reporter Hondo Carpenter asked Patrick Graham if he wants to stay with the team. When asked if coming back to the Raiders is something he wants, Patrick said, "I love my relationship with the players and the organization, but right now I'm focused on the Chargers. I have to do a better job, plain and simple." What do you think about his answer? To me, it seems like he didn't really answer the question. His response was vague, and he just mentioned focusing on the Chargers. So does Patrick Graham know something we don't? Even if Antonio Pierce stays, he only signed a 2-year contract, meaning he's only guaranteed to be here for one more season. In that situation, Patrick Graham might start looking for a job that offers more job security. It's hard to imagine him agreeing to a 1-year extension. If Antonio Pierce leaves the Raiders, it seems very likely that Patrick Graham will go too. This could be the perfect chance for him to find a new job that gives him more stability for the future. Right now, the Raiders are in a tough spot. Not only is the future of the defensive coordinator uncertain, but so is the future of the head coach. On top of that, a lot of key players on the defense have contracts that will end this season, and the Raiders will have to make decisions about them. Some of the players whose contracts are up include cornerback Nate Hobbs, linebacker Robert Spillane, defensive tackle Adam Butler, safety Trayvon Merrick, edge rusher Malcolm Kunza, linebacker Divine Diablo, and safety Marcus Epps. These players are all question marks for the team, and tough decisions will need to be made. The good news is the Raiders have a lot of cap space, but they also have a lot of needs to address. Max Crosby even hinted that he wants his contract renegotiated because there's no more guaranteed money left in his deal. So while the Raiders have money, it can disappear quickly if they're not careful. The Raiders will have to figure out who they really want to bring back from this list of players. They'll also need to make moves in free agency to fill out the rest of the roster. It's a tough situation with many question marks. Looking at this list, there are definitely some players I would like to see back, but it's going to be tricky. Some of these players can't be paid too much. For example, Nate Hobbs. I really like Nate Hobbs. He's done a great job as a slot cornerback, and that's a tough position to fill. However, he's missed a lot of time due to injuries. From 2022 to 2024, he's missed games each season. He's a good player, and I'd love to have him back, but we can't afford to overpay him. The question is, what's the right price for him? He plays an important position, but the best ability is availability, and he hasn't been available all the time. Another interesting player is edge rusher Malcolm Kunze. Last season, Malcolm had a breakout year and looked like he could be a strong force opposite Max Crosby. He had a great season, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to play at all in the regular season this year because of a season-ending injury. Malcolm Kuntz is an interesting case because he's coming off a serious ACL injury. The Raiders don't know yet how well he'll recover or if this injury will affect his performance. There's always some risk when you pay a player a lot of money after a big injury like that. Another issue is that there's not a lot of footage of Malcolm playing at a high level. In his first 2 years in the league, he barely played. Even last season, he didn't get much playing time early on. But when Antonio Pierce took over as the Raiders' interim head coach, Malcolm was moved into the starting lineup, and that's when he started to shine. So really, he's only had about half a season of good performance on tape. Because of these reasons, coming off an injury and having just half a season of strong play, the Raiders need to be careful not to overpay him. They'll have to find a fair price to bring him back. Also, the Raiders have brought in some interesting players at the edge rusher position, like Kayvon Chasen, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. How the Raiders handle the Malcolm Kuntz situation will be important. Personally, I'd love to see them offer him a 1-year prove-it deal. That way, he has a chance to come back, and if he plays even close to how he played last season, especially at the end, he could earn a big contract. Another player I'd like to see return is Robert Spillane. He's been a great signing for the Raiders, and fans love him. He's also a true leader on the defense, especially as the captain of the linebacker group. But depending on who the next defensive coordinator is, he might not fit into the new defensive scheme. Still, I hope he stays, but like everything else, his future is uncertain. Then there's Adam Butler, a veteran defensive tackle. Will he be a good fit next season, or will the Raiders want to go younger at that position? Trayvon Merrick, a solid safety, should be affordable and could return. Players like Divine Diablo are on the bubble, and it's unclear if they'll be brought back. Marcus Epps might leave too, especially if Patrick Graham isn't here anymore. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Raiders. First, they need to figure out the head coach situation, then decide what to do with the defense. A lot depends on who becomes the new defensive coordinator. The Raiders' defense could look very different next season, with many new players joining the team. That's something they really need to think about. If Patrick Graham leaves, the Raiders will have to consider options for a new defensive coordinator. One option is to promote someone from within the team, like Rob Leonard, the Raiders' defensive line coach. He's done a great job with the defensive line, so he could be a good choice. But another option is to go after an experienced defensive coordinator. One coach I'd be excited about is Robert Saleh, the former head coach of the New York Jets. Saleh has a solid track record in the NFL. From 2011 to 2012, he was part of the legendary Legion of Boom defense as a quality control coach. He also worked as a linebackers coach from 2014 to 2016 and was the San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator from 2017 to 2020. Under his leadership, the 49ers had one of the most aggressive, versatile, and resilient defenses in the league. Saleh also had a rough start as the Jets' head coach, with a 4-13 record in his first season, followed by 2 7-10 seasons. But things went downhill for him when Aaron Rodgers was injured this year, and the Jets' defense suffered because of it. Robert Saleh is now working with the Green Bay Packers as a consultant, but if the opportunity came up for him to return as a defensive coordinator, I think he would seriously consider it. He's known for his energetic and passionate coaching style. His defenses are usually very aggressive, using different defensive fronts and coverages to confuse opposing teams. He's also great at connecting with players on a personal level. But for now, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the defensive coordinator position. As for Patrick Graham, I think he's done a solid job for the Raiders. He hasn't been amazing, but he's definitely been an improvement over the past defensive coordinators. I appreciate what he's done, but it feels like his time with the Raiders might be coming to an end. There's a good chance he won't be back next year, which means the Raiders will have some big decisions to make about the defense. Raider Nation, I want to hear from you. Do you think Patrick Graham will be gone next season? If so, who would you want as the new defensive coordinator? Let me know in the comments below. That's all for today's video. If you're new to the channel and love Raider-related content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.